Yes. We're meeting. You have a meeting now? Yeah. How long are you staying?
An hour until 11:30.
They really want to play PlayStation.
The disappointment is palpable.
Okay, Richie, you want to be Man United? You want to be?
You need to watch your back now from now
I
on.
know.
Yeah.
They were so disappointed when I came in. I couldn't believe it.
Jesus. First the question was, can we book this room?
Yeah. Next thing you see on the calendar will be like, oh, booked for a PlayStation tournament.
Okay, we're broadcasting at the moment. I don't think anyone's joined us yet, though.
Oh, Philip and Carl, they are in a meeting.
Yeah, typical.
Awesome. Gmail.
Keep saving himself.
And then you see it on the PlayStation.
Yeah, exactly. No, it should be okay. I just feel maybe we'll have a PlayStation tournament after all.
Yeah.
Maybe we move this over. The doors in park and keep that view one day.
And then let's come back. And we'll leave like this then for the PlayStation people to annoy them.
Yeah, this is the fun you start.
Shut you.
Everybody here. What do you think of the table at play? Come on.
We're a couple holes in here for the.
Who's the judges can play against us?
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Hello, we have a viewer. I don't know who is viewing, but we keep it in a secret.
Hey, you are wearing your shitty red fleece. Dylan. I took a guess earlier.
You should see the reaction of the guy before here.
We get started shortly.
Oh, yeah.
Playing.
Oh, you kick people out?
Yes.
That's amazing. Someone's going to certain facilities they can play.
Oh,
He's feeling a little bit more sick after yesterday. Sorry, Matt. Cool, the guys are on their way now.
on the right. Like that's like a dark.
That is a skill chat.
Yeah, like a dark theme. Right?
Yeah, there's a dark.
There is.
White and dark. Who's presenting? Again? Got Bruno and Fabio.
Oh my god, this
Yeah.
is adding a few pounds to my weight.
10 to be exact. Right?
Yeah, kind of rabbits.
Oh, right, the camera.
Yeah, I don't figure out. I'm not fat. I'm just fluffy.
Sorry?
Big one. Okay. Big bone. No, fluffy. And huggable.
Oh, we didn't know how to start probably.
Hello.
Hello.
Howdy.
Oh, it's good that we came past that.
It's a presentation on something that you can send to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. That from work. Then we can screen share with whoever's viewing. Cool, we'll be kicking off shortly now.
I seem to be easy.
Where? Here?
Yeah. You feel like we share my connection. It's good. Discussion. See the Wi-Fi.
Maybe the guy.
Training. It's the same in I see two.
Okay.
He checks.
I'll check email and see if it appears here. When did you email it? I don't have it in the email either.
Best position.
No. We're experiencing technical difficulties.
Yeah.
We'll be with you shortly. Got it.
What?
Yeah.
Mine should be.
Yep, I have yours, Piotr.
And Bruno's? Yeah, you have Bruno's?
No. Oh, yes. Okay. Cool, there we go. And I'll share my screen, and then we're good to go. Sweet. What are we starting with this?
Bruno.
Cool.
Yeah.
Here if you can.
Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Bruno, and well, I will talk about some strategies that I use when I'm doing code review. And we talked about these policies and these strategies, and we are trying to make new guidelines for code reviews and code quality, since there are so much new guys. And well, let's start. So well, I will talk, this is the agenda. I will talk about some clean code strategies and like reduce indentation levels, early return, don't use else, and other strategies. And I will talk about the code review itself, how to learn with code reviews, and how to transfer knowledge with this practice. And well, after that I will conclude and show you some references. So about the clean code strategies, I extracted some code snippets from our code base. This is a method that I found. Well, about the indentation levels, we can see here that we have some ifs and else. So this strategy is basically reduce the complexity of the data flow. So with this, we have a more readable code, and also we can test easier, we can debug easier, we can create unit tests easier. So this is a code, and I will show you guys the modified version. So what I did here was just try to reduce the indentation levels. So using these techniques that I will show, I inverted the test here and use early return also here, and here I eliminate the else. So early return. The early return is basically you return early. You basically try to shift your logic to instead of insert logic inside the if, you shift the test, return, and put the logic after the if. Like, for example, here I will just, again, just invert the logic and return, and the for each is outside, right? It's simple, and you could, for example, use a temporary variable to debug and facilitate the tasks. So basically, this strategy, and also with that other one here, don't use else, it's basically to reduce the complexity of the code and make it more readable. And also, like I said, you reduce the complexity of the data flow. And well, this don't use else. Piotr suggested to just say something like avoid else, because in some cases we can't remove the else. But yeah, but in my experience, I think that almost, I don't know if 100% of the time, but almost something like that, we can remove the else. We, in that case, apply the early return also and remove the else. But the difference in just apply early return and remove the else is that, for example, here I couldn't just remove the else without the early return. But in some cases, we have, for example, I will take back some steps here just to show this. Well, yes, here, for example, this if has logic and don't have any else on any return on that. So the early return is about shift your task and remove the code from the inside the else to outside. So this is basically the strategy on early return. You shift your test, return, and put the logic outside of the if. Why we need to do that, or why it's a good practice? Because if we insert logic inside of the if, someone can insert another if inside of that logic. So if we extract the logic for outside the if, well, maybe people will put another if there, but well, the logic, you are not enforcing the practice, but it's like a hint, you know. You remove it, you don't have in your code anywhere logic inside the if. So, well, that's pretty much the difference from from don't using else with a return. Here we have another one. This one is excluded logic, the mutual exclusive logic. So if and else, we are not returning nothing here. It's kind of tricky. So we can't remove the else just applying a return. So what is the suggestion? Something like that. We just remove the logic that is inside of that excluding if and else. We remove for another method. So here again, here now we can apply a return, you know. So that's another hint that our code is a little bit complex when we have too much responsibility on a method, you know. So I just created a private method and move that logic that is mutual exclusive with the if and else for an external method. Temporary variables. Well, I'm be very quickly about it. Well, the thing is, we have this task here, a long task with, we look at it and we need to think too much, and just using temporary variables, we can make cleaner code. So, well, and in the control structures, like if, else, switch, we need to have the cleaner part of our code. And if statements and switch cases, we need to have, I don't know, maybe almost every time we need to try to have only variables there. And using temporary variables also, this will facilitate the debugging process, the task creation. If you can, for example, here, if I create a breakpoint here to debug the code, well, it's not impossible, of course, but it's harder than put one here, and one here, and debug step by step. This is, those are our data flows. So, well, this is pretty much the data flow that we want. We make a test and return. It's something like that. The arrows are changed here, sorry. But oh, here. We have an else, we have an if, go there, make something, and go back to the main path. This is more a data flow, more complex. So we need to try in our methods, in our code, have less cyclomatic complexity. About the code review itself, well, those are just some empiric guidelines. It's like, how can you learn with code review? Well, I try to make the code review time a fun time for me. You know, I try to have fun when I'm code review, because how you can do that? How you can make fun of regarding a time that you are working or something like that? Because you can learn even when we are reviewing the code. You can, for example, you look at a snippet and doesn't understand what the guy is doing there. You can talk with the guy, learn something, research over internet, and well, this is a very good time for me. So this rate of code review, something like that, you you need to take your time. You need to take time making code review. It's not a thing that is our workload on Jira. It's a good thing. So take your time and try to review not more than 500 of lines in an hour. It's like an empiric, not a rule, but it's like an empiric.
Can you imagine anyone reviewing 500 lines of code per hour?
Yeah, it's the goal is not review more than
One
5.
ticket? One ticket per
One function.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, try to not burn out yourself code reviewing, because you will be sometimes you will have fear to give more feedbacks, because think about it, you are for an hour making feedbacks on a code, 10 or 12 or 20 feedbacks, and you're already stressed, and then I already made so much feedbacks on that code, something like that. Well, those ask questions are take notes are all part of the process of learning with code review. Transfer knowledge. The main goal of the code review is make the code better, but not just the code, both coders, the one that is doing the code review and the one that submitted the code. So, well, when you were giving feedback, it's a crucial time, because some people receive feedback in a way and others receive feedbacks in another way, and you have to feel the person, and to avoid any personal stuff, you always need to demonstrate why your solution is better, make references, provide references, show other places on our code base that we are using something like that. And well, of course, this is when I show first this talk to Richie, he say, because it's like, don't be a dick. You can't make jokes about the coder or about the code itself when you don't feel that the person is open to it. So and also don't argue too much. If the person is resisting regarding your feedback, try to involve a third person. So just to try and make this code review thing, the feedback itself, a good thing, a positive thing. And also you need to of course, give feedback, both of them, the positive ones also. You need to point the points where the person or the coder made good catches. Well, this is another practice, AGLX programming. There is a very nice post in the references where the guy just tried to introduce this concept to be egoless when programming. These are some of the rules. You make mistake, you are not your code. Someone will always be better than you. So we are good coders, very good coders, but I don't know, maybe Linus Torvalds is a better coder than me. So, and someone is better than he. So, well, someone would be better, and don't take it too personal. Don't rewrite code without consultation. It's something like, well, you are doing your task and you will modify some code that some guy made just because you want, just to enforce your practice or your standards. No, it need to be a team thing. Be respectful and patient. Things change. Well, the code base is, I don't know, maybe 5 years or more. So this code base that we are working at the time of the commit that we are seeing when we are making some changes. Maybe things were different, people's are different, so things change. Your code will not live forever. So it can change. You can receive feedback and change it, right? Fight for what you believe, but accept defeats. It's, well, You need to try to enforce these your suggestions when you think that is right. But when someone prove to you or show a better way, be grateful and as I said, be positive about it. Be part of the team, it's obvious, and critique the code itself, the code instead of people. You are criticizing the code, not the coder, right? So that's why this egoless programming is important in code review, because we need to try to maximize the benefits of the code review. So feedback is a complex thing to make. So the thing is, you need to try to make the code review not a personal thing, like I repeatedly said. And also, it's not only code style, it's not a bracket in different line. This we can automate. Here we have some automate tools. This one, I'm trying to put some effort. This other one, Max present to me, this Agento AGC. The PHP Mass Detector, it's a tool that detects not coding styles things, but like, well, you have too much cyclomatic complexity. You can early return. And this one is cool because try to apply the object calisthenics that are where I found these rules. It's a book from TogWorks, from Jeff something. Well, it's a very cool book. And this Sonar Cube, it's like a tool for CI where we can plug in a lot of automation tools to make code analysis and gather the quality of the code. Guidelines, well, we need guidelines. The planning of this talks and everything, it's make guidelines, and Fabio will talk about it. Oh, here are some references. I tried to rush about it because it's a dense content, but well, it's that what I want to talk. Well, okay.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions here, that's okay.
Okay, of course.
Around the first part there with the early return and trying to decrease the indentations, is that purely just to make it look better so that it's easier to read for us, or is there a performance impact with doing that as well?
Sometimes the performance will be impacted, but the performance itself, it's not the main goal, you know, because, well, I was talking with Piotr about it, and when you have a better data flow, you can, for example, if you have those problems, you can parallelize better your code execution. So if we are working with Java or other technology that we can have multi-threads, of course, it will be very good if you have a less complex data flow. In our case, it's not the problem, PHP, but also PHP creates bytecodes for its opcodes, the name. So, well, the opcode will be, you can try to parallelize using pthreads or something like that. But it's not the main goal, right?
Okay.
The main goal is the code quality itself.
Okay, great. Another question then is about the code reviews. Is there a point at which it would be better to do a code review with someone, just call them over to your desk to look at something, or would you always give feedback through GitHub or whatever tool you're using to do code reviews? Would you always submit feedback in the pull request? Or is it okay sometimes just to call someone over and talk about it if it's something small to change?
Well, I have this personal thing that I try always to make some comments, even if it's just a compliment, you know. I think it's a good practice because when you show to the other coder that you actually read that code, you know, read the code, it's something good. It's not like, well, I just moved the ticket and code is approved. I actually read the code. And of course, about the quick code reviews practice, it's like, for example, you saw a code, it's not you that are making code review, but you saw something, it's not impolite, but it's better than just comment there on the code. Go to the coder and, wow, I saw that code you wrote. what you think about something, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool.
In this matter, the move to GitLab is absolutely a game changer for us. I
Yeah.
You can mention people, and you're not sure, but that was fun.
That's awesome.
Now, for 2 years, we only had Jira, so you just have to mention someone, and it's very. So in GitLab, you go to Activity tab, you can see all the stuff going on, guys, in all the streams. If you spot something that is not what you like, you can still mention to people.
It's pretty good. I love GitLab. So,
One question. It's not a question, but a comment. I think. What would be the best, best practice when you are like changing something or fixing some bug, and you find in this code that you can improve the code, but the bug is only like one line. But you can like, for example, if I'm dealing with a bug inside a template, Magento template, and then I found that there is lots of logic inside the template, and then I can change that, move to a block or something. But to fix the bug, I just need to change one line. What would be the best choice here? Change everything, fix everything, or move to a better code quality, or just fix the bug?
Well, I would try to answer it that we have a policy that whenever you're modifying the method and you see that there is no unit test for it, you should provide a unit test. And once you have a unit test, then you can refactor it because you know that you're not breaking. Because modifying something that doesn't have a code test coverage, you might break it as well.
Yes.
So first, provide unit tests, and when you have unit tests, then you can modify it safely without breaking the code.
Looking for the code reviewer side, because the code reviewer will see like the title of the issue or bug, and we'll see what you've done, and then you see that sometimes will be nothing related to the
but that's not a problem. We know that we are dealing with legacy code, and that's the only way to improve it. We don't have time to actually rewrite the code from scratch. So whenever you're touching something and you see a place to improve, we should do that. But starting with the tests, just to make sure that
it's kind of responsibility. You have this responsibility.
Everybody,
improve.
Everybody should be aware that we are dealing with the legacy code, and we should look for improvement.
Can I add something really, really small to what Piotr is saying? So basically, you're talking about out of scope.
Yes.
You're saying something, it's out of scope. It's not your job to fix it right now. What we usually do, and what we did until now, is we create a new ticket for the improvement or for the code you want to change. Continue with the code review, fix the bug, fix the whatever you are fixing, but make a note that things needs improvement. With a ticket for it, and then you can have that ticket assigned by a project owner or whatever, whoever is in charge, and based on your free time, somebody can take that. But usually those tickets were going to, I think to the, what was the team's name? Sorry?
Live Squad?
Live Squad, yeah. Usually those tickets would go directly to Live Squad, but at this point that's deprecated, so probably somebody that has some free time can take it. But we usually just add a ticket for it.
Because of the time. Because sometimes you need like a small time to fix the bug, but a large time to refactor.
It's also a question how big the refactoring is. Because if it's just rewriting one method, then you can do that as part of the ticket. If it will take like 10 times more than fixing the bug, well then probably look for a small improvement, like just extracting the code to the block without refactoring it, and allow somebody refactor it later as part of another ticket. So just incremental improvement. So if you see that something can be squeezed into this ticket, let's do that. But let's not completely write it to reach the perfect state of the code.
Yes.
And you can also, I don't know, maybe try to comment in a way that the code reviewer will see what you are doing. well, I just fix it, and this is a small refactoring that I'm doing in the other comment.
So just to the comment, for this particular case, we shouldn't have a logic inside the template, never. That's like forbidden. You need to move a logic into the helper methods or whatever, and then you write unit tests for that. That's like proper refactoring in your case.
But be careful, because there are a lot of places in which Piotr told you it's a really old code base, and there are a lot of places when you're gonna see some things that will make you cringe. But there's some hours being lost there. I mean, if you're starting to, if you go into it, it's gonna take time.
We created with all the checklists stuff to do. There's technical code review guideline that we created in the past. We will talk about it, which goes into the details of what you are expected to do when you're dealing with.
Yes, I think that might be questions about time. But in time,
It's not harm talking
comment time will be necessary.
Yeah, it's not harm talking to whoever's lead on the project. Just in like a real quick thing if you're not sure how big the refactoring.
Let's say that when you're doing the code review, if the guys also cleared up the house, dealing with the parking room is always a good thing to do.
It's an initiative.
He'll be happy.
Any more questions for Bruno? No, good. I have the two windows there, so you can just maximize whatever you want to work on.
Yeah, this one should be good. Systems
Just
row.
down here too.
Oh, okay, this one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hello, I'm Piotr. Today I want to present something that we implemented in Tier to improve our logging. So current problems with logs. We have a lot of logs being dropped. We use the elk stack, which is Elasticsearch Kibana, which has one problem that we found is that it has very strict mapping. So if you are using a particular field, the first time it is used, it checks the type, and any log message for that field needs to match exactly the same type. And if it doesn't, the whole message is dropped completely. This caused a lot of problems in Tier because some very important logs were dropped, and we have had no visibility on order processing and CCADF consumptions for some time. So we came up with the tool to test it as part of unit tests. So we built a tool that when you're running unit tests, when you're mocking a log message, it checks, parses the message and checks if the each field has a correct type compared to the mapping file that we created as well. So this allows us to make a consistent mapping and know that if you're using a field, it will raise a error in the during the unit tests if the mapping if the field was already used and it has a different type. So just adding this one line allows us to trigger this test during unit tests. So this is very powerful, and in the yesterday's release we were able to implement this in all unit tests that already mocked the log message. So we have like 30 fields already mapped in there. And the mapping file is located in the Smartbox logs test helper provider. And it's very simple format, so you can easily add the field whenever you're adding the new log message. you can easily provide the information about the fields that you're introducing there and how they should be used. This also allows us to use callbacks because we're using a return callback function. But if your test actually requires a callback for to be validated, you can easily pass it as a second argument and just copy the message that we had. So it's fully compatible with the tests, and I hope that whenever you will be adding new log messages, that you will also include this to build a better logging. So the next steps are, first of all, cover all the log messages, because not all the tests had the log message mocked, and the other ones I haven't touched. So whenever you deal with a method that has logs, please make sure that this snippet is added to the test to enforce this mapping check. The second thing is we should make sure that our mapping is consistent. Once we are building the mapping, we can make sure that instead of using order ID field, we should actually use increment ID field inside the order object. It will make our debugging a lot easier, because you can have in Kibana one field that actually catches all the log messages for the particular order. So there's a lot of places for improvement. Once we have this mapping, we can find out which fields can be actually merged. So this is very important to go there. And the additional thing, currently the mapping that we are building is completely separate from the mapping that OPEX are enforcing on Logstash. So whenever you are releasing and you modify the mapping, you should notify OPEX so that they can rebuild the mapping. We're working with Ezekiel from OPEX to actually automate this process. So on each deployment, we will be regenerating the mapping on the Logstash, and then the process will be fully automated. But for now, it's a manual process. At the release time, when we have a mapping modified, we should inform OPEX to update. So yeah, that's all. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Yeah, just to tie that into the code review presentation we've just seen there. Should we be thinking about, so sometimes when you're doing a code review, it's easy just to think about what you're looking at and maybe better ways of doing it. You wouldn't always think of things that are missing, like log, the important things to log what you're doing. And how important is it then for people to have an eye on that when they're doing their code review?
I would say it is important, and we should add it to the checklist. At the end of today's session, we want to cover, like, wrap it up. We have a code review checklist, and by the next week, we want to add the feedback from this session to this checklist and circulate it. It should be part of the welcome package for the new joiners, so that everybody is up to speed. What are the standards? What you should expect when you're code reviewing, and when your code is code reviewed as well. So definitely, this should be part of the process. Okay.
I sent you the link on the chat. Okay, chat. Put it in full screen. It's gonna be very quick, right? Okay. So in the same 1 minute. This is code reviews in front end, how we deal with this. So first of all, front end in 2016 is a help. We are a lot of developers here. It's a huge amount of frameworks, tools, polyfills, languages, best practices, preprocessors. You have no idea how much the front end domain for the backend developers really grew in the last 10 years. You just need to check the web status right now. So it has become very difficult to do code reviews, okay? There are new tools coming up every day, pretty much. There are tons of framework. It's very hard. How we do this in Smartbox with so many developers working at the same time on the very same code base. That was the big challenge. So there's just one solution for this, it's automation. We are humans, there is absolutely no way whatsoever to control, to do all the things that Bruno mentioned on the front end, especially when it's something that it gets changed so often, okay? What I tried to do there was just put in place as much code review possible at, automation level, exactly what we are trying to achieve as well on the back end. In order to do that, we started, because we were needing to compile the SAS files, to use a tool. There are many of them. There is Gulp, there is Grunt, there are plenty of them. But in 2 years ago, we started with using Grunt, okay? So Grunt, just to make it very short, is the thing that was actually born just to do the second thing, which was just about compiling the SAS in the CSF thing. But then the thing went a bit like, we found out that there were a lot of cool things that you can do with Grunt. And then we started to do, since the cool thing here is that this has never happened with the PHP world, because the code sniffer needs to be literally enforced somewhere, okay? Like check for complexity, check for stuff. We don't have anything in place, so it's on the back end, you are 100% relying on a human being beside the unit test. Of course, you have the unit test, but it's exactly what Bruno said. You have to go in GitLab and understand. With Grunt, we started from this, and we found a lot of plugins that could have helped us doing, quality checks as well, beside the compilation and all other things. So we ended up, this is the current situation right now with this tool, Grunt, that first of all cleans all the artifacts that are available, then it compiles all our sprites that are for the different things, all the different countries. It beautifies whatever you write in JavaScript, the source files, okay? So there is a rule set there, configuration, we do a lot of stuff. And this is the game changer. We started with this, but I'm just already studying another one, which is called S-Lint, which is the thing that is used pretty much in Facebook and everywhere else. This stuff here, this hint allows you to create a configuration file that defines the rules you want for your JavaScript. And it covers exactly what Bruno presented you before. Cyclomatic complexity, granularity of the methods, literally how many lines a method in JavaScript should have, okay? Then it does the uglification, it does all the other stuff. And moving on, so what happened in Smartbox in the last year since we enforced this? Why we enforced it? It was easier than doing .php, because if you don't compile, you don't see it in action in your local computer. So you cannot commit, okay? So that's it, because the artifacts are now part of Unity 3, because you have to pass through this tool, no matter what you do, to see your ticket, fix it, okay? And that enforces the quality overall, okay? So this reduced the cyclomatic complexity, the method in JavaScript, in jQuery especially, we were writing stuff everywhere. The thing were becoming very hard to manage. JSint came to the rescue. So we started in, I don't remember when we started, like I would say 6 months ago, I sent an email about this. Like, hey, there is this parameter, which is cyclomatic complexity. It means literally how many scenarios inside a method you can get, how many heaps, exactly as Bruno said, okay? If this, you're creating possibly 6 different scenarios there. The code is hard to understand, okay? So, and we started with a threshold that was very high at that time, okay? The idea was that every release, we created a ticket to reduce that number, okay? 1 by 1. Okay, so we started, it was at the beginning when I started, it was 20, okay, something like that. And we were having like 2 JavaScript files failing, okay? So there were actually big methods, okay? So the developer had to refactor that in order that it could compile the code. It means it was not so complex. Each release in Bayer created a ticket about this, and in the last 8 months, the last buyer release, we finally reached the threshold of 7. So it means that a lot of the code are now granular, are testable, are easier to understand what it's doing, okay? So the granularity makes, you have method that does just one thing, it does it right, there are not too many if nested, it's easier to understand, easier to read. Also, something very cool that it does is creates a grant, the source maps. Source maps are the things that when you enable it in your Google Chrome or Firefox, allow you to understand what's going on in production, even if the code is unified, okay? So this is like fundamental. That's why you see the map things everywhere. It's just because if you enable it on your tools, you will be able to see, oh, this CSS, the SAS file, the SAS line here is creating this bug. Otherwise, you would have to deal with a compressed and unreadable file, and that's why we put source maps there. Moving on, but despite all our attempts, of course, the code is still a lot, and it's very hard to still to code review all of this. So there are some issues here that I would like to take this occasion also to talk about. I mean, the Magento fronted fallback for the way we are, it's our business. We have many countries. There is a default theme, as you may see, that's France, okay? And then there should be absolutely crystal clear to everybody of you guys how this works, okay? So if a file is missing, it's falling back to the default one. When you're fixing something for a country related only, you're introducing a big dependency there if you literally copy the file from the default to something else. So my suggestion about this, it happened a lot of time, we had issues. We never have something that is only for Switzerland, only for France, only for Spain. What you have to do when you are asked to do something for a country only is to improve the default thing, okay? You move the logic to the block, you make it configurable using the XMLs, you can set the data or not using layout XML updates, and the code will handle all the possible scenarios rather than doing the quick win. The quick win is that I have to fix something, I copy the header HTML into the Switzerland thing, you are creating a dependency there because 10 other people are changing the header in the same time in another sprint, and they will not inherit your changes because you created a copy. Okay, so that's very important. Another thing that we cannot control is that we went using knockout. Knockout was the decision. We were going to use that because to reduce jQuery code. Okay, jQuery is going wild here. Knockout is you have UI, you have the model. It's bidirectional. When the UI changes, when the model changes, the UI changes as well. Okay, as this is that. No more on click, no more on that. It's a callback hell right now on the current JavaScript, okay? Because it's been done all built around jQuery and it grew very, very big. So the idea is that we don't want to duplicate functionalities and we don't want to start writing the on-click, on blur, on whatever we are doing right now. Start using Knockout for everything new JavaScript related, okay? Study, there are tutorials, you're free to ping me at any time. The idea is that we don't want to start writing those UI.catalog.js. They are very big and we will like to get rid of them. Still, the SAS, unfortunately, is not as good as the JavaScript right now. We started to introduce a beneficiary after we did this work, introduce the linting, which is a sort of JS link for SAS, which has a rule set, and you can tune it to try to reduce the amount, it can, when it's something you have to compile, it can become, the CSS become very big. So we have to be really careful there using SAS. And of course, GitLab, fantastic tool. We improved a lot, but unfortunately, this works only for backend right now because of the assets, okay? So front-end merges are a pain. You're familiar with this. Every time you merge something that affects a CSS or a JavaScript, you're gonna get a Git conflict there. The trick is to just recompile it again, okay? That worked because the assets are in Unity tree because of a long history. So the future, and we're done, runtime deployment. So this is the last thing I'm working on. It's already available on Smartbox Buyer. We are moving towards Docker. We use Docker for deployment everywhere, so we thought like, okay, let's say you will still use Grunt locally using a Docker image I sent around and blah, blah, blah. So you have to literally compile and check all the complexity locally, because otherwise your code is untested or it won't work. But on git ignore, we don't commit the assets anymore. Okay, so no more ccc, no more nothing. Just the SAS and the source for the JavaScript. What happens is that when we deploy the code, so that's why be prepared. Don't be scared if you see everything without styles and without JavaScript when this is live, okay? Because we are supposed to go live with this one. Okay, there won't be, basically what happens is when you are deploying on project environment, as it is on this will be propagated to production. The recipe, which probably is going to do the mapping thing, check that Piotr mentioned before, is going to run the very same Docker image that you guys need to start using locally, which is just an isolated version of Grunt, okay? Which does, except you can delete Grunt from your local environment. For the one of you that they never installed, that's a good thing, because you won't need it anymore. And all the checks and the compilation will happen on deployment. This is also cool, because if you are smart and you change the JavaScript and you forget about testing it locally, you will be caught on deployment, okay? So like, Grunt will return a failure, the deployment will fail, and then we'll say, oh, the code is too complex. Why is that happening? This shouldn't have happened, because it means that you compile locally, you tested locally, you know what I mean? So it's double enforced there. And that's it. So for Docker, I've been talking with Luis about this, and we're still trying to improve it, but be aware that for Grunt, we are fully moving to Docker, and there is already a Unity 3 Docker, let's say, framework ready there, but Alex is going to keep working on this, dealing with OPEX as well, especially for the local provisioning. The idea, guys, is that now OPEX is using Docker everywhere. We started using Docker locally. Let's reuse what it's already in place. There is absolutely no reason for reinventing the wheel. The way we provide project environments should be the way we provide local environments. We're using exactly the same thing. So as soon as a new country is live, you just re-provision your Docker. You will have the Switzerland, Germany, whatever that went live. And that's pretty much all of it. You have any question? I'll try to go as fast as I could.
Yeah, one question. How did you manage the incremental improvements? So you were saying there that when you were looking at such amount of complexity and some of the...
Yeah, there are a list. I think we did like 7 or 8 tickets. Every time there was a release, I created a new Jira ticket, reduced from 8 to 7. And then that gives you Grunt 10 errors. So you have to refactor, you're forced to refactor.
Okay, so the metrics you used for improvement would have been...
I have some optimal values that I read around. I read articles about a perfect complex cyclomatic complexity is around 7, okay? And we were at 25 when we started. Then I said, like, okay, what happens if I put 20? Like, I don't know, 10 methods in 4 files are failing, so you must recompile. Then we fixed that release after release after release, and we reached now 7, which is quite good. You can see all of this in the code base. And now, my point is that all of this works on front end. The great things that Bruno brought us, that should be enforced somehow. Okay, for Grunt.
Grunt can enforce even the inline JavaScript, for example. On the thing.
Yeah, there's, as I said, there's a lot more to do. The point is that you need to go step back. What I learned from my experience here is that we need to take one improvement at a time, otherwise you end up not delivering absolutely anything. So
you check the Magento JavaScript.
No, just the Smartbox folder. You have all of this inside the Grunt task folder, okay? And then you will see all the configuration for Grunt and everything. And I'm always available to give you explanation. The important thing that you guys have to know is that the next bio release is going to remove the assets. So you're going to have blank pages everywhere. So be prepared at least with the Docker Grunt for compiling your assets locally, okay?
So just Smartbox.
Just everything that is Smartbox folder, stuff like that. And the other thing is, again, watch out with the countries related functionality. I try to push this to the business a lot of time. We're sharing the same code, okay? So there is nothing for Spain only. It's that you have to do that our default theme is capable of handling hide something, show something, okay? Not copying the template.
And there was a bug
Yeah.
about this. Bruno found inside the building, I found was a
There is a lot of
XML
legacy.
problem that was put on production on the default in France.
Yeah, except there might be
But the template wasn't there because it was only for Switzerland.
exactly. That's exactly why this first line here is like fundamental. This created a lot of issues very recently.
One thing, if you move the XML, the layouts
No, this is
to per country,
exactly no. This is
after
exactly how it
that
is.
you need to move to another country. You need to move to
No.
another country. We can try like something to because we are based on code, on store codes, right? We have store codes, and inside the layout files you can filter by store code.
Yeah, but
There's one.
the way
then
this
you can move things that are country related to the default, but then you filter by store code.
Oh, normally you put the config, and then you have the config, you have to be enabled or not by store view, and your code should just check the config. Because at some point, if you want to enable the same config on
exactly.
your country or something,
It's not a big like hard work. But you will need like more than one layout file.
I'll tell you how it works.
And then in the end, when we have all config in all these countries, we have one.
But we already have that. So I'll tell you how it works. The countries, the only thing you're gonna find is a local XML. That's exactly what you're saying. The default theme, it does all the work. If something is country related, improve the default theme. If you have to change something on the layout, the only file that must be in the country only thing is a file called local XML. That it's the last thing that Magenta takes, where you remove a sidebar or you do your own stuff. You inject the JavaScript. That's like the optimal way of tuning the default theme. It's through that file. Okay, so what I suggest every time is just use local XML at country level for doing anything country related only. Now, just one thing that concerning the configuration. Another thing that we did recently is, guys, we ended up with I would say 100 configuration in the backend for e-commerce, and they're absolutely not used. I know that you, as good developer, have to create configuration toggles for every e-commerce feature that you're asked to. One thing we started doing since 3-4 releases: create the configs XML default value. Don't create the UI for it because it's never going to be changed whatsoever. Like for the checkout, for all the things they are asking us, okay? It's still a configuration, config XML default. You can enable feature enable, disable, whatever it is. But the creation of the backend for the UI, so e-commerce can change it at any time, not needed. Okay, so for you, it's just a manual will be missing there. If one day they change their mind, they want to start, I don't know, changing the checkout, for example, enabling the Google map in Spain and Italy, okay? We didn't create a toggle in the backend. We created exactly the config XML with the default, which is 0 for that specific store code, okay? 0. If one day they come and they want to enable the map, okay, it will require a release, but it's one chart change, okay? So it's one chart change. You can even do it with an N98 command, writing literally the path and saving it to the database. It's just that let's try to, well, from my experience in 4 years here, we created like 95% of the toggles we created for e-commerce so they can change it, never used whatsoever. So let's try to keep this in mind when creating new stuff. Because from our experience, we have so many things in the backend from 6 years legacy code that are just a mess. When you have to try to search for a config, you know how hard it is. What's this stuff in France? Stuff in it's crazy. Let's try to clean that up.
This is faster.
Yeah. It's just that we started doing
for the
this.
developer side.
Yeah. We started doing that. For example, checkout is in a version in France, and checkout in Spain and Italy is different. If you see the checkout module, the config XML in the default, if you put the store code there, so France has 1, the other has 0, so you get that checkout in a way in France and the other one in 0. And it doesn't make absolutely any sense to have e-commerce changing the way we check out straight away from the backend. That will, create regressions everywhere and stuff like that. It's something that you don't need to have.
Fabio, just on the point about the pending JavaScript unit testing.
Yeah.
So what's the progress on that?
The progress
I
is
think
that-
it's ready to knock out stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Knockout is that you have the model and you have the UI. The model is easier to test. Everything that is new, guys, needs to be done in Knockout, okay? Because we are thinking, that's why I'm pushing, like, don't put jQuery in Knockout, okay? Because I'm thinking like in 6 months, we can finally start having tests on the Knockout view models, okay? This means that you don't rely on the DOM anymore, and you know that your JavaScript is always working, okay? In order to do that, I have to ask you to be very strict on this. Unfortunately, I don't have this in Grunt, so I cannot check it. So I literally go to the guy, it had someone who had some jQuery in the Knockout to fix something, remove it. This is not the way we want to have it.
We can, like, I don't know, we haven't set up the test harnesses yet in JS, right? So that's not running. So we're not generating coverage reports. I'm not going
Yeah, my idea is start
That's
doing
something
it.
we can do now.
I'm waiting for the beneficiary release. They remove all the latest jQuery that was wrongly added.
Oh,
So
that's not good stuff.
yeah.
So after that.
I would start from the Knockout view models to have unit testing for JavaScript, which is different from the functional one that QA is doing. Okay, it means like that every time you commit, that is, we're gonna put that in Grunt. All the view models, they are all working. Okay, so keep in mind this. I know that sometimes when you're dealing with a bug, you go to the JavaScript and you add your own on-click, do this, hide, do that. That's exactly what caused the problem for us in 3 years. So this is awesome, guys. I can recommend you to study it. It's very fantastic.
But since we have knockout implementation now, we're going to have to do a gradual improvement, like the systematic
Yeah.
stuff.
So the checkout is a good example. Checkout is a mess of callbacks everywhere, and it's a mess. It needs to be completely redesigned, but it's cool because with this you don't need it's software design basically. Anything else?
Cheers.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome.
So one more to wrap up.
Yeah, so Richie created the code improvement committee with Fabio, Bruno, and me. We are looking for one more person to join us. And today we had a first meeting, and we agreed that every developer should have a 1 hour a week that he can spend on a project related on code improvement. So like a Docker project for building the Unity free environment, or any other projects that is around the development, but it's not strictly related to one of the projects that they work on a daily basis. And they will be able to track it in Vivo, so that people are contributing to those projects, but they don't have a way to track it with the timesheet. So this is a first step to actually allow you to contribute to those projects, the one that you like, and to improve our process, how we work. So, that's the first step. As I said during my presentation, by the end of the next week, we want to update the code review checklist. And the next steps will be to start automating whatever can be automated from the code review checklist. So adding Git hooks.
The idea was, you remember the thing he mentioned a Magento, that it's a code sniffer with Magento best practices, okay? The idea, and it's all controlled by an XML where you define the rules you want to be applied. We're gonna put that thing in GitLab, and you have like 15 days, everybody can collaborate. Like, I don't like this rule at all, it doesn't make sense to me. We come up with a Smartbox rule set, okay? It's just an XML file. Then the next step would be to integrate it in a Git hook. So you will gonna have the very same stuff as Grunt. So you will have to pass all the rules that we all as a team defined, and that's how the code sniffing is gonna happen. Okay, so I think it's not enforcing it straight away. We're gonna put like we have this rule set, and it's open source, so we can all collaborate. You can be agreed on something or not on something else. We can enhance it, and when we are all agreed, then we enforce it.
And we're going to start meeting up a bit more informally about this as well. This is just a kickoff for this, but we're going to start having workshops every 1 or 2 weeks to actually help people with this. So reviewing the checklists, going through stuff that doesn't make sense, improving things. So there'll be a forum to give feedback rather than collating those emails. So once the initial kickoff is done and the first version of those forms is sent out, and we organise something again and we meet up. We won't be so preachy. Okay. Cool.
Okay.
So thank you guys.